What is up, everybody? This is Adam. Welcome back to Fouled Out. Today starts our 3 week long odyssey of ranking the top 30 players in the NBA. For those of you that are new to the pod or don't remember how this works, Matt and I are going to be joined by our friends Clint and Devin. All four of us have voted on who we think the best 30 players in the NBA are, and those lists have been used to create the Fouled Out composite rankings that we will be reviewing on this podcast. Going to do it a little bit different this year than in years past. We're not going to go player by player and talk about how we all feel about them and where we all voted. We're going to give you guys the list of the 10 guys we're going to go over today, players 30 through 21. And then we have a couple categories to break that list down. We're going to look at who we think are the most overrated and underrated players in the composite rankings, look at guys who just missed the list that we think should make it, and then a couple other categories to help us break down kind of the voting and who actually ended up making this list. But before we get started, just a reminder, you can reach out to us, fouledoutsports@gmail.com. Really appreciate you guys listening, and we love to hear from you. Like I said, going over players 30 through 21 today. Let us know who you think should have made the list. Are we crazy for including some of the guys we did? Are we more crazy for leaving some of the guys out who got left out? I think there's some big names who didn't make the list this year that may surprise you. So stay tuned for that. But for now, let's grab Matt, Clint, and Devin. Let's talk players 30 through 21. Let's go. All right, we are back, and I am joined by our expert panel of judges, Matt, Clint, and Devin, to give you the undisputed 100% correct rankings of the top 30 players in the NBA. How's everybody doing?
Very good.
Doing well. Glad to be here.
For one, am ready to take my victory lap on Cade Cunningham after I took so much shit last year.
You're going to have to wait till next week because this week is players 30 through 21. And Cade not only made the list this year, but skyrocketed up the rankings. He's probably our biggest riser. Funny thing on Cade, though, almost all four of us had him in the exact same spot.
Yeah.
So he's probably the biggest consensus we have this year after being one of the larger debates from last year.
Yeah.
But today we are talking about players 30 through 21. Before we start breaking down the list, I wanted to talk about the guys who received votes but did not make it. Well, we had 42 guys who received votes this year. And going from the person who received the least amount of votes to the person who came closest to making the list, we have Aaron Gordon, Ivan Zubac, LaMelo Ball, Jamal Murray, Chet Holmgren, Desmond Bane, somehow, some way, Michael Porter Jr., Jaren Jackson Jr., James Harden, De'Aaron Fox, and Tyrese Maxey. Is there anybody on that list that stands out to you guys? Anybody that you really want to beat the drum for making the top 30 who didn't quite make it?
I mean, I still think Maxey is firmly a top 30 guy for me. He is hands down Philly's best player. Embiid has historically kind of been considered that guy, but you can't rely on him at this point in any way, shape, or form. And Maxey has answered the bell when he's been on the floor.
I have said that from day one on this podcast with him. So there's like that's a happy thing for me. I didn't vote for him, but I think Chet probably has a legitimate shot in the top 32. I think that his playoff run did a lot to solidify that too. Despite the effort that was piss poor that couple games in the finals that OKC had, where it was totally disappointment. I firmly believe that they were going to win in 5. And it was like, had they put the effort into a couple of games, they probably could have. So, but I think Chet is unfortunate they missed. And LaMelo too. I mean, he's a really good player on a bad team, but I still think, as much as I can't stand the Ball family, that like he deserves to be at least in consideration.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting. We have this like glut of players between really like 33 and 29. So we have a tie for number 30 this year, Kyrie Irving and Damian Lillard. And then number 29 is Trae Young. So if I take those three guys and then like the top guys who got votes who didn't make it, we have Trae Young, Kyrie Irving, Damian Lillard, Tyrese Maxey, and De'Aaron Fox. And it's interesting. I didn't vote for any of those guys. It's interesting because they're all very similar players. They're scoring first guards who are not like, they're not particularly efficient and they're not particularly reliable in terms of playing games.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why I didn't have any of them on my list. Last year, Dame played 58 games. Maxey played 52. Kyrie 50, Fox 62, and Trae Young 76. So at least there's like a little bit more durability for Young, but they're all this archetype of point guard that I don't love. So I didn't really vote for any of them. I mean, if I had to pick one of them, I probably would agree with Matt and pick Tyrese Maxey at this point. But you're right, he is the Philadelphia 76ers best player, and we just saw what that team looked like with him as their best player.
Yeah.
And granted, he didn't have a ton of help around him, but
you could say he had negative help around him.
Yeah, we're not talking about like a particularly we're not talking about an overachieving team led by Tyrese Maxey last year. So that's where I like pump the brakes a little bit kind of on all those guys. Devin, if you had to pick one of those guys to be your starting point guard, who are you taking?
I mean, out of the guys you just listed, like,
yeah, those five guys from Trae Young to De'Aaron Fox.
I mean, it would be Maxey for sure if he's a part of that. Like, I agree. I mean, the 76ers they're an absolute mess, but he's been a great player ever since he's really been able to kind of shine without James Harden being in the way. I mean, and it's like not perfect yet, but I would still, I don't know. He's kind of just built like a scoring guard anyway. It's not like Trae Young will get 11 assists per game, but it doesn't even necessarily feel like he is like a great distributor. It's more of just like an incredibly heliocentric offense built around one player.
He's weird in that he can rack up assists, but it'll still feel like empty calories.
Yeah, it doesn't like I don't watch him and I'm like, man, like, which is what an amazing playmaker. Like, really, like historically great. I mean, because like his assist numbers are very, very good. But it's because everything runs through him all the time, and he is fast. He's really good at getting into the paint and kicking it out. But I just don't. He's just not efficient. Maxey is a bit more. He's just like built like a go get me a bucket kind of guy. I mean, he can run point a little bit, but I don't know. So yeah, I would go with Maxey for sure out of those guys listed.
Yeah, instead of picking one of these score first guards to make the list, I want to give some love to a guy I voted for who I'm 100% sure that you guys did not consider voting for at all. I voted for Clippers center Ivan Zubac. He was number, I think, 28 on my list. I had him up a little bit. I just think that he is one of the most underrated players in the NBA right now. He was 17-13 last season, played 80 games, and finished the season 11th in PER, second in defensive win shares, and third in win shares overall, only behind Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Nikola Jokic. Every year I have this advanced stats god. It's usually Jared Allen, but didn't have quite the season last year. But Zubac was also second team all defense NBA this year. I think that he is quietly the reason that the Clippers were really a good team this season, kind of buoying that team with Kawhi Leonard and James Harden and all these other guys missing various amounts of games. So I wanted to give him some love. I would much rather have that defensive stopper on my back line than one of these score first guards. But I mean, if you're looking at who's going to be rated better in 2K, you're definitely going to see Trae Young and Tyrese Maxey before you see Ivan Zubac.
Zubac is such
that's your Derek White this year, huh?
No, my Derek White this year was Aaron Gordon. I had Aaron Gordon 30th, and I was like, who is an important player on a playoff team that I can give 1 point to?
I almost think that's a better pick than Zubac. Not that I don't think like Zubac is great. It's just like I think about it like, okay, you do like the fantasy draft and like 2K and you're sitting at 30. Like, can you justify taking someone like Zubac over someone that is like a more conventional best player on your team?
Depends on what his overall rating is next year. If it's like an 85, like yeah.
Yeah,
No, I have to disagree. Like, as someone who like fulfilled a role similar to him back in my playing days, like, what the fuck are you gonna do when you can't get the ball? Like, we weren't gonna bring the ball up. State of basketball, it's like big men who can't dribble or shoot threes out of their mind are going to be taken much lower because it's positionless ball now. And we can just get somebody in who's laterally quicker, who can dribble the ball and distribute, and we can get somebody else to get the rebounds and layups.
I also want to say this, though, that if I'm playing 2K, I'm definitely like playing 2K is very different from playing NBA basketball.
100%.
I'm definitely
give me De'Aaron Fox on 2K.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm not passing on Maxey and Young and those guys in 2K. Give me Kyrie Irving in 2K.
Yeah, 100%.
No, but like the point is still like honestly, like your best player needs to be someone who is gonna have the ball a lot, right?
Yeah.
So
the problem with some of these guys that didn't make the list for me, though, is that they're either one, not the best player on their team, in the case of De'Aaron Fox or Damian Lillard or Kyrie Irving at this point, or two, they are the best player on their team, and we've seen exactly how far a team with that guy as the best player can go.
Yeah.
In cases of Trae Young and Tyrese Maxey, these are first round exits or not playoff teams at all. So I still think that there's more value to having a defensive anchor type of center, maybe than like it's easier for me to build my team, I think, around Zubac than it is for me to build my team around Trae Young, because I have to be so specific with how I build my team around Trae Young. Whereas Zubac, I'm like, okay, my second guy can be basically whoever I want.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm gonna sit here and say that like we know how far like a Tyrese Maxey team can go when he's 24, you know? We have evidence in this ranking of just how bad your situation can cover up how good you are in Cade Cunningham. I admittedly might have had him a little bit high, but like I can't ignore the talent.
That's fair. I also want to mention before we go on to the next topic that Kyrie Irving was this year's Clint special. Nobody else voted for him, but Clint put him so high that he made the list anyway.
There we go.
Clint knows how to game the system.
When he plays, he's fucking
best.
good still. And that's like what pisses me off about him. Like Matt will tell you, I will bitch and complain about this guy, but like when he's available and when he's good, like you're going to fucking count on him.
The chasm between like the two modes that he goes into is like maddening, because like 70% of the time you're probably going to get like the good Kyrie, and then the other percent of the time, the other like remaining 30 is just like, dude, what? Like, stop chucking. This isn't 2K.
He turns off like his passing
Yeah.
ability
Yeah.
and is just
Yeah.
like laser focused on the rim.
I will say, like, because I know in the playoffs last year he had some dumb moments, but I think I believe I said this the last time on the podcast as well, but basically ever since he left Brooklyn, though, I have been a much bigger fan of him as a basketball player. Like I remembered like why he's a cool player to sometimes watch. Like, yeah, he had some bad moments the last time the Mavericks were in the playoffs, the year before, but his whole Brooklyn stint was horrible. Like the way he was like taking the spotlight away from the team and was just kind of
He's just a pariah.
he was doing all like multiple just annoying things, and it's
in
just
fairness though, like they don't get to the finals that year without
him.
Kyrie. Like
Yeah.
as bad as some of those moments were, it was the peaks that allowed them to get there. So like
Yeah.
I don't know what he's such a hard guide for me to rank, and like his stylistically, Devin, you've heard me say this for years. Yeah, it's hard for me to palate that
Yeah, for
his
sure.
style, but like the one he's going off, it's hard to deny him.
I will say that, like, offensively speaking, though, he very rarely does not fit well with another player. Like, yeah, the Brooklyn thing didn't work
No,
out, but it's like he fit great next to LeBron. He fit great next to Luca. Like, he
no,
doesn't ever really take away anything from like another ball
yeah.
dominant player most of the time.
hmm
At least in my opinion, he doesn't, which is
He's
kind of
he's
underrated.
very unique in that like he can play off ball extremely well, but he's not going to pass up an opportunity to be ball dominant.
I liken him to like a mound of clay. Like he's whatever he needs to be for the people around him, like on the basketball court specifically.
Yeah.
And I think that that's like really, really impressive given his game, to be able to change it or to morph into something that, is more akin to distributing or taking charge. Like, I think
Yeah.
that it shows how good of a player he is and his basketball IQ, despite his like really fucking asinine, other takes like that. I
Is
don't know
he?
what else to say about that. Like he's a unique dude.
Is he the best player ever to never be the best player on his own team?
That's
No, I don't know.
My instant reaction is it's
Yeah.
Scottie Pippen, maybe, but Scottie Pippen, when Jordan retired, was the best player.
I
No.
was thinking Showtime
Yeah.
Lakers, like Magic getting a bunch of glaze, but like Kareem over here doing the quiet hard stuff. Like I don't know though. I wasn't around back in that time, so I can't say what the sentiment was like while it was happening.
That's probably, but
Maybe
Kareem and
Yeah.
Magic were both the best player on their own teams at some point because Kareem was on the Bucks before the Lakers.
Yeah,
Magic
yeah.
was on the Lakers after Kareem. I guess Kyrie had that time in Boston, like a year where he was the best player on the team, but it evaporated so
Cleveland.
fast.
Yeah,
In
he was
Cleveland,
also
he
in
was
Cleveland.
too.
Yeah.
That's true too. When I think of
Yeah.
Kyrie, I think of him as LeBron's and Luka's
yeah.
sidekick.
And it's like
Yeah.
if we're looking at like a competitive team, it's like, yeah, he was the best player on a bad Cavs team, like before LeBron was there. But
Yeah.
it's like, does that really like
I mean, he was coming into
Yeah.
it though, and he was learning the NBA game.
it's not his fault that the team was bad, but it's just like
Right.
when he was
Yeah.
competing for championships, he was never the best player on any of his teams.
Yeah. Well, and if we're gonna, allow that discrepancy too, then we can kind of bring Chris Bosh into the conversation. And
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I definitely would take Chris Bosh over Kyrie, even though, Chris Bosh in Miami, the stats weren't there, but he was definitely a straw that helped stir that drink.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Kobe Bryant. Can I put Kobe Bryant in the conversation? No, that might be a little overreactionary, but I mean, Shaq was better.
He's a little bro. I'm the big bro.
We also had 6 guys fall off the list completely from last year. So we talked about Maxey and Fox. They were both on the list last year and fell off.
Rats.
Jamal Murray made the list last year, got some votes this year, but didn't make the top 30. And then we had Zion Williamson, Paul George, and Joel Embiid all fall off completely. Is there anybody on that list that really like shocks you guys? I guess besides Tyrese Maxey for Matt.
Embiid.
I'm not necessarily shocked with Embiid. I mean, I did have him listed very highly last year. I do remember that, but I mean, he's had injury problems his entire career.
Yeah.
It's kind of like we knew he was going to collapse at some point. Like it was just going to kind of be over one day. For me, a guy that I'm a little surprised by is Jamal Murray. Like I just cannot believe he cannot stay healthy. Like he's the second best player on a good team. I don't really feel like, his play style is not something that like would lend itself to being hurt all the time. And I'm just like, I'm very surprised that he can never really seem to stay on the court. And then he'll come back, he'll drop a 50 piece and then he'll just kind of be limping the entire time and never really looks 100% anymore. And
Yeah.
I'm not really sure what that's about.
Some people just struggle with those soft tissues.
Yeah, I said Jamal Murray was the most surprising to me as well because he still has those peaks that he's known
Yeah.
for. Like he had a couple games in the playoffs this year where he was an absolute assassin. But with him getting older and him being hurt, I think over the course of the last year and a half, we're just not seeing the peaks as often as we used to. And the lows are getting pretty freaking low at this point. So I think that's why he didn't make it. But if I'm just looking at that list, like I'm not surprised about Zion. He's hurt too often. Not surprised about Embiid. He's hurt all the time. We may never see him play more than 25 games in a season again. So you can't vote for that guy. Paul George just sucks and gets hurt all the time. So like those guys I wasn't surprised about, but Jamal Murray was the one where I was like, God, how did I? Because I didn't vote for Jamal Murray. Clint was the only one who did. So I was like, God,
Yeah, I was really high on him before, and I still think he's like good. It's just like, and here's where I'll say like, yeah, there's like a pot meat kettle kind of situation because the best ability is availability. So, and I know that I have some like I've criticized guys on the list and in the past for that. However, I think that like Denver is a much better team with him than without him. And that's where that like if the impact isn't going to be super great or it's going to give somebody like Tyrese Maxey like a way to develop and like get his own shine without somebody being there to kind of take it away or, you know, make it seem less, then, you know, that's like kind of just where I'm at with it.
Fair enough. So without further ado, players 30 through 21 for this year's top 30 list. Like I mentioned, number 30, we have a tie, Kyrie Irving and Damian Lillard. Number 29 is Trae Young. Then we have Alperen Şengün, Bam Adebayo, Domantas Sabonis, Kawhi Leonard, Ja Morant, Paolo Banchero, Evan Mobley, and Pascal Siakam as player number 21. From that list that I just mentioned, who do you guys see dropping off of this list for next year?
Dame.
Yeah.
I just
probably Trae
like,
Young too, honestly.
Yeah, like kind of a lot of these players that we were talking about at the beginning of the pod, like these offense heavy guards who aren't bringing anything on the other side of the ball. And like I've always liked Dame. Like I really liked him in Portland, but it's just he also dealt with injuries throughout his career, and then it's like the Milwaukee thing. It just really didn't work out, and I'm not even putting a lot of that on his shoulders. I mean, his second year was like I think statistically better than the first year in Milwaukee, and like I don't know, like the Dame Giannis pick and roll, like actually was just never good, and I actually don't really put a lot of that blame on Dame, believe it or not. I just like don't think Giannis is an amazing screener. He's a great player. He's one of the best in the world, but I don't actually think he's like an amazing screener. But regardless, it's just like, I don't know. I mean, Dame's production has been falling off. His efficiency's been dropping, you know, reasonably steady over the past handful of years. With the lack of defense and him continuing to get older, it's like, I think he's just going to transition into more or less like just a shooter, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but certainly not worthy of being on a top 30 list, in my opinion.
It's hard to see him maintaining like the prestige that he has after that Achilles injury at his age too. And like, I mean, a lot of the guys that dropped off the list this year are guys that didn't play, and he's not gonna play most of, if not all of this upcoming season. So like,
yeah, I thought
that's just the reality.
I thought the easy answer to this question was like Dame and Kyrie. They're both going to miss the majority of, if not all of the upcoming season.
Yeah.
Kawhi Leonard still hanging out at number 25, doesn't play a ton of games. Really only hanging out at 25 because you guys got the Adam special. I ranked him way higher than everybody else. So those guys I think are the easy answer, but let me give you guys two not so obvious answers of guys I think could fall off of this list for next year. I want to see what you guys think. My first one is Domantas Sabonis, who's hanging out at number 26.
Yep.
He's made the list every year that we've done this.
Mm-hmm.
How many years of being a good stats, bad team player are we going to put up with before we stop voting for him? I mean, like, he was 19, 14, and 6 this year, 19 points, 14 rebounds, 6 assists, played 70 games. He was 8th in PER, 9th in win shares. But, and I say this, I can say this because I'm a Kings fan. This team fucking sucks. And he's the best player on the team. Yeah. They have no success to speak of outside of making the playoffs one time in the Sabonis era. And they make the play in this year and play Dallas, who had just traded away Luka Doncic. And he posts a negative 26 plus minus, goes 11, 13, and 5 of 13 shooting. He's not a good playoff performer. He's not a good big game performer.
So I want to push back a little bit on this because, like, he's not somebody who can facilitate his own offense. Like, and this is so if you look at the list, a vast majority, like I think more than half of the guys who are in the 30 to 21 spot are all post players. You want to know who they're going to get pushed out by? Like Flag and like these other guards that are going to be coming into their own because like bigs are going away. I'm going to like, you guys are probably going to hear me say that until I'm blue in the face. And it's like, it's really disappointing to see because I feel like the game just turns into how many threes can we shoot and, you know, whatever. But that's like a different conversation. I think the fact of the matter is if you're not Nikola Jokic or Anthony Davis or, shoot, I don't even know. I feel like Giannis is a pretty big dude too, put him in there. But like, if you're not one of those guys who has like range or can punish you in other ways, then like you just don't get to be like a good center anymore with traditional center things. And a lot of these guys haven't really developed as much as they probably should have, but I'm not their coach, so I don't get to dictate what they work on. But it's like, yeah, if you're not going to develop the outside or if you're not a spectacular passer, like you're going to fall off and you know, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's the way the game is now.
It's a good point, but it's also kind of proving my point that like, how much longer are we going to be voting for this guy?
So I think I would continue to vote for him because if he gets on a team that is not built like the fucking Kings, I think he does a lot better. But like, I think that like when he's in the situation he's in, it's like, okay, well, I don't have 2 or 3 other guys that I can count on to give me solid stuff every single night, day in, day out. All these other teams do. They all have guys where you're like, that's a 20 and 10 guy every night. Yeah. But like, so I don't feel like the Kings have like a good set around him to make him flourish with his skills.
How dare you speak ill of Zach LaVine?
Yeah. Clint, don't you dare talk shit about the 2020 Chicago Bulls. That's who the Kings are right now. It's LaVine. It's DeRozan. They tried to get Lonzo Ball, who was on the Bulls a couple of years ago.
Yep.
Not be surprised if we sign Kobe White in free agency next season.
Fucking hell. I hadn't even considered that. Like, that's a whole nother fucking hell that you're existing in. I'm sorry.
We're the 22-23 Chicago Bulls plus Sabonis, and he's just not good enough to make the Chicago Bulls a viable team. I had one more guy who I think is a sneaky candidate to fall off this list. And this might be shocking because he's the highest rated player that we're going to talk about today. But number 21 is Pascal Siakam, the forward from the Indiana Pacers.
Yeah.
I think he's here. And I say this as someone that voted for him and I gave him the second most points out of any of us. But he is here for me specifically because of how good he was on the Indiana Pacers playoff run that just wrapped up. He was at least their most consistent player throughout that playoff run. He won Eastern Conference Finals MVP. He was excellent for them a lot in the playoffs. But that team is not going to be as good next year, to say the least. They're not going to have Halliburton for the entire season. They just lost Miles Turner to the Milwaukee Bucks. We're going to see a full season of him being the best player on the Indiana Pacers. And if that team doesn't make the playoffs or is like an early first round exit and he's just like a 27-4 guy, he didn't make the list last year, is all I'm going to say. So, I mean, if he doesn't have this excellent playoff run to kind of buoy him, I don't know that he makes the list next year.
Yeah, it is really interesting just in general, the way the Indiana team played this year. It's like, to make it to the finals and have Pascal Siakam be the Eastern Conference player of the year for your team. That's the name of the award, right? Gosh, I can't remember. Eastern Conference playoff,
like
whatever.
The Larry Bird Award. I think.
Yeah, whatever it is. It's I mean, I would have never thought that he would have won that, even like going back to his years in Toronto. And it's like, he's a really interesting player. He's a good two-way player.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's like he is absolutely on this list for what he did this year. And then it's like you look at the actual numbers he put up, and it's not like they are anything substantial compared to his like career highs or anything, but he did play. He was extremely efficient in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Well, you could tell he'd been there before.
Yeah,
he was very confident, confident.
And it's like, like if he's going to be the best player on their team, they're losing Halliburton for the year, and if he puts up 20-7 on a team that doesn't make it to the playoffs, it's like, he'll definitely fall off the list. But it's like, to me, it's almost just a testament to how good that team was and how they played throughout the year in general, because they didn't have like a superstar like at all. So I agree with everything Adam said. I just think
little 2004 Pistons-esque. You don't got one single star player. You got a really good point guard, and then a bunch of people who are good around them.
It was just all offense instead of all defense.
Yeah. Yep,
right.
Exactly.
Can I say I disagree with them not having a superstar? I think Tyrese Halliburton is absolutely a superstar.
Okay.
I think
he came into it this year, but I wouldn't have considered him a superstar in like December.
Once we get to Tyrese Halliburton, I have some takes, but it's a yes and no thing for me with him. But
our
sorry for
voting,
stepping on your toes there, Devin.
Oh, you're good. No worries.
Our voting has Tyrese Halliburton as a top 10 player. Spoiler alert for the fans, but I just think Tyrese Halliburton imbues the Indiana Pacers with his style of play, and it's something you can't quantify. It's like Steph Curry shooting and all the gravity that Steph Curry does and how much he spaces the floor just by being out there, even if he doesn't have the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Tyrese Halliburton brings something to the Pacers that is really hard to quantify. And I feel like that's why they went on the run they did, is because they're so selfless and they move the ball so well. And that all starts and ends with him. Like, you can't have Trae Young, who needs to pound the air out of the ball and take 30 shots or whatever it is a game, and run that same offense and have that same kind of success.
Yeah.
And that's kind of my thing with the Pascal Siakam being number 21, though, is like, okay, Halliburton's not going to be there to do that for you guys next season. Do you still play that style? If you can't, how does this team look, and how does Pascal Siakam look without Tyrese Halliburton running the point, putting the ball where everybody wants it to be?
I mean, the spark plug's going to move from Halliburton to Siakam. I don't have any doubt in my mind that he's going to be able to get those guys like motivated and be a good leader. It really just depends, I think, on if the guard steps up.
Well,
really, you speak ill of TJ McConnell.
I was just going to say they're probably actually going to be better next season because they're going to have TJ McConnell as their starting point guard.
Honestly, how well they did with TJ McConnell was part of my reasoning for not putting Tyrese Halliburton higher. Because the team didn't fall off without Tyrese Halliburton.
He's a system point guard.
Yeah.
Start McConnell. Hashtag start McConnell. Yeah.
I also have to say, I know you too damn well, because as soon as you said, here's two guys I think might drop off this list, these were the two names that jumped into my head.
Yeah, I was trying because Matt knows I'm trying to be subversive.
Yeah.
Right. It's like I'm not going to pick Kawhi Leonard and Kyrie Irving because it's too obvious. I'm like, let me give you
Yeah.
like a little hotter take. Um, I have a good hot take for you guys coming up here in a little bit, but we had a couple guys from the 21 to 30 range jump up a level from last year and go into 22-11, or guys who moved up all the way up into like the 10 to 1 range. Looking at who we have from 21 to 30 this year, who could you guys see making the leap either into that like 11 to 20 range we're going to talk about next week, or maybe even the 1 to 10 range we're going to talk about in 2 weeks?
John Bam.
See, for me, it's Paolo. Like Paolo is
Yes.
so
Yeah.
good. And the Magic are a playoff team. He's the best player on their team. He was out for a while with an injury this year, and he never really looked like 100% back to what he was doing like before it, even though he only played like 10 games before he got hurt. But he was still like, he was dropping the numbers. His efficiency is just like probably lower than what you would want a guy of his size to be shooting from the floor. But like overall,
82% or 45, excuse me. He's 82nd
yeah,
in the league.
yeah, and it's like he's a perimeter, like his skill set is very perimeter oriented, but I feel like as like a leader and just like how much he gives a shit and his overall skill set, like and his age, like it's all a
Yeah, he's
combination of
young.
everything.
Yeah.
Like I don't see why he can't continue to improve and just become more efficient. And then, obviously he has a pretty solid team around him as well. So I think all of that kind of bodes well for him.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
totally with you on that. I was it was really like the injuries and the lack of playoff success like
Yeah.
kept him lower on my list because he is an extremely good player. Uh Ja, I'm kind of with Clint there. It could go either way for me with Ja, but
It depends.
what
Is he
we
going to stop fucking playing with guns?
that
Because if he doesn't
too,
stop playing with guns, then he's
but
not going to be on the list.
right.
But if he
But
does, and
but
he,
what we saw before he was publicly executed in that playoff game,
oh yeah,
good God, like he was taking it to the best defense in the NBA, and they did not have an answer for him.
I wanted to ask you guys this about Ja. Is is the moratorium on not voting for him because he's an idiot over? Is it like a 1 season moratorium where we're like, God damn it, he's an idiot, and then he comes back and plays well, and we're like, he's a top 30 player again?
I mean, I
Is
left him off because I'm in the two. Like, you got to show me that you can do it for a fucking season before like I'm gonna think that you've corrected yourself.
Well,
I don't
and
know.
like a huge part of his problem is staying healthy recently,
Yeah,
and his production just has not been where it was a couple of years ago when we were starting to
yeah,
view him as like a transcendent guard. Like
yeah,
he doesn't look quite the same. He's a player that really like
yeah,
plays well with his athleticism. Like that's his
yeah.
primary attribute that he really brings to the table. And it's like
And I think
not a good shooter, not a good
I
shooter.
think all of that is compounded by the fact that he can't stay on the floor. Because
Yes.
how do you get better? It's by getting reps.
Yes. So it's like, so he missed time initially for,
Yeah.
being an idiot, more or less. And then it's like, then now he's missing time for being injured. His team's not doing well. They just got
Yeah.
rid of their second best player, or well, their second best guard, not their second best player, but like the second best perimeter player. So I don't know. It's a weird case with him, and it's just like he just does not feel like a couple of years ago when he had that breakout season. It really felt like it was like, oh man, is this like Derrick Rose again, or like a similar type
Yeah.
of thing?
Russell
Like,
Westbrook.
yeah, Russell, that kind of mold of a player, and it's like he doesn't look anywhere close to either of those two players at their peaks. So
Yeah. I mean, I had him higher because it got to a point where like I was looking for a guy in that slot and there wasn't anyone left that I felt like was capable of being transcendent and like truly lifting their team and like doing what he was doing in that playoff game.
Yeah, Matt had him as the 16th best player. I did vote for him. I had him 27th. But here's the thing about Ja. Like the big thing about Ja for me is even if we take out the fact that he's an idiot.
Yep.
So excluding the season where he only played 9 games because of the suspension, I took his other 5 seasons in the NBA and looked at what is the average amount of games this guy plays in a season. Anybody have a guess how many games per year Ja Morant plays?
27.
It's got to be under 60. I'm going to go under 55. Maybe like 52 games a year.
Yeah, probably somewhere around Devin's got.
Yeah, it's actually 60 on the dot. It was about
Okay.
59.6, but still, so this guy misses like 22 games a year, mostly because of injury.
Mhm.
That's not including the year where he only played 9 because he's an idiot.
Yeah.
And it's, Matt kind of touched on it earlier, but his play style of hyper athleticism, I'm going to fly into the rim full speed and like put myself in a position to be publicly executed by Lou Dort in a playoff game. It hampers him in a way. Like it makes him the most exciting player in the league to watch. I think.
Yeah.
I think Ja is, at least top 3 most fun guys to watch when he's on his game. But it leads to a lot of injuries because he's not a big dude. He's a pretty slight guy. And the fact that he is not playing as much basketball as he should be, even outside of the suspension, is hampering his development as well. So, when he's peak Ja Morant, he's pretty amazing. But I don't know how often we see that guy. Like, would you sign Ja Morant to a max extension right now?
No.
No, I don't think I would.
That's hard to answer in a vacuum, I guess. Like, do I have another option? Am I
you're the
like
Grizzlies.
stuck in? Yeah, like
you're the Grizzlies. Would you give him a max extension?
I would, but I also don't know that I would have.
I mean, the organization's historically been pretty loyal to their guys, haven't they?
Yeah. I mean, like but I also don't know that it, like, if I'm keeping him, I'm also not like taking those picks that they got back for Desmond Bane and then like immediately trading some of them away. Right? Like, I'm definitely hedging that bet.
The fact that they got a Phoenix pick for Desmond Bane and then Phoenix is now going to buy out Bradley Beal. I like malpractice in Orlando.
Chef's
They
kiss.
blew that whole thing up.
Speaking of Orlando, I want to go back to Paolo for a minute because I had him as my answer for this as well. Which one of these players can you see going to the next level? So Paolo started the season last year averaging 29, 9, and 6. And then he misses a ton of time because what did he do? He tore a pec or he had some kind of upper body injury where he missed quite a bit of time. He comes back in January and he's like working his way back January, February. In March, he averaged 38 and 4 over the course of 15 games.
Yeah.
And then in 5 playoff games against the Celtics this season, he averages 29, 8, and 4 with decent efficiency. The offense around him has been so bad. Yeah. And the spacing, they run a horrible offense in Orlando. I had no fucking idea what they're doing down there with the guys they have. The system is horrible, but it's even worse because there's zero spacing. They are all in with Desmond Bane. They trade, 4 first, including a Phoenix first and multiple future unprotected first. So they're all the way in with Desmond Bane. And they need Desmond Bane to be the guy that can unlock this offense for Paolo Banchero. Like, he should, he's a 40% three-point shooter. Bane is. Should be able to space the offense, should be able to create more room. I think if he can do that, like if Orlando is right and this ends up being a really good fit for them, which I think it will be, I think the number one thing we're going to see is Banchero is going to fly up these rankings because he hasn't had a lot of playoff success as far as winning games, but he has been excellent in the playoff games that he's played in so far in his career.
Yeah.
And you guys are right. Like, he's the only guy down here who is the number one option on a potentially pretty good team next season.
Yeah.
Also, just really like not spoken about enough of how good of a number one overall pick he's been.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I mean, I get it, no playoff success and all that, but it's like,
Mhm.
I think when he was drafted, people were just kind of like, yeah, I mean, you know,
Yeah.
you could have gone a couple different directions, and now it's
Yeah.
like he's really good. Like that was
No,
the correct choice.
I remember there being some sort of debate on it, and I even at the time I was like, but why?
Mm.
Like,
There was a big debate that year between Paulo, Chet Holmgren, and Jabari Smith.
Jabari, I was like, who is the other guy?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wanted them to pick Chet. I thought Chet should have been the number one overall pick. And Chet's been good, but I was wrong because
yeah.
Paulo is great and is very capable of being the number one option on a probably
Yeah, I
on a
mean,
championship team.
Chet is getting paid, but I don't think Chet would be getting a max deal if he had to be the best player on his team.
And I just don't think like that his build is just what fucking kills him, in my opinion. Like I think with like Paulo 6'10", sturdy, 250 pounds, but he's ripped. Like Chet Holmgren looks like a stiff breeze would blow him away.
Mhm.
Like, and he had some injury problems coming in. The longevity, I'm going to be really curious to see how he does at the beginning of next season, having a full championship run of playoff games under his legs. Like all of those things are going to kind of factor into that. And I think that if you're not built to withstand the abuse of like banging inside or like being around the big dogs underneath the rim, then I think your longevity and your ability to do the things that Blanchero's doing is like not very good because you can't sustain like the physical abuse that's being put on you.
Yeah.
Like,
I do want to say this though. I absolutely think Chet Holmgren would get a max contract if Orlando had picked him first overall. Not necessarily because he would have earned it as the first option, but like what else would you do if you had picked him first overall and he had played a limited amount of games in the couple of years he's been in the league? You couldn't not, you would have to. You couldn't not do it. Right? Wouldn't feel as good about it, but you couldn't just be like, yeah, we're gonna let this guy walk. Fuck him. He was our number one overall pick 3 years ago.
Do you know who Paolo kind of reminds me of? Like,
who's that?
Post injury, like like made his game Blake Griffin in Detroit.
Ooh,
yeah,
that's a great, like that first year Blake Griffin.
Yeah,
that's a great. That I was not expecting that. That's a good comparison.
Yeah, like his game feels very reminiscent of that.
I thought you were gonna say me because he's 6'9" and ripped.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good comp. I think like his passing skills are not as good as Blake's were.
No, but I think it's good enough that especially when you add Bane into the situation, it is going to expand the offense.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to take a smart Blake Griffin style rather than like being explosive and jumping out of the rim. If it means the passing isn't necessarily as good as the guy who has 13 years or however long he's been in the league.
Yeah.
Like experience playing in that kind of role.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that it'll actually get better over the years because
absolutely. And he's going to start playing smarter. Like, so the question that I would have specifically with him, if you get somebody who maybe not like marquee player, but somebody who's going to give you good numbers, is he still going to perform as well, not being like the distributor or whatever, having the offense flow through him if he gets somebody a little more competent around him? I still think he'll be a great player, but I don't know if he's averaging 29 points or 25 points a game at that point. But his assists might go up then. So it's like, would you rather have that or?
They're kind of in this weird position of like, they have a bunch of different guys who are okay distributors that are going to be in their starting lineup. Like between him and Suggs and like Bane isn't terrible at that. Franz. Like they have like four guys that can move the ball a little bit. So I'm interested to see like how well that flows together because if they actually lean into that, that could be really good. But
Yeah.
I still like I have a lot of questions about the capacity of Suggs offensively uh as your starting point guard because I think you need more scoring potential out of that guy, I think.
Yeah, I want to say too before we go on to the next thing that one thing that Matt and I agree on this podcast is that 2018 Detroit Blake Griffin is actually the best version of Blake Griffin
Yeah.
by far. Like so I think that's a pretty hefty comp there to compare him to that level Blake Griffin
Mhm.
because and I understand what you're saying, but I look at Blake Griffin and think like that is just the best basketball that he played in his entire career
Yeah.
was that season in Detroit.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So for voting discrepancies, where we had the biggest differences in this part of the list, we talked about Kyrie was the Clint special. He got 14 points from Clint, no points from anybody else. Alperen Şengün. I had Şengün 25th. Matt had him 21st. Clint and Devin, you guys didn't vote for him at all.
Nope.
I know. I know. I guess I don't know because the Rockets were an amazing regular season team, and he was great. He was awesome. Honestly, I think it's more of I'm going with people's track records of being, I guess all-star players over him currently. I mean, it's like he hasn't been doing this for a really long time yet. I'd like to see it for another year maybe before I'm like, yep, like that Alperen Şengün guy is absolutely baby Jokic. And it's like anytime any player has that comparison where they're like, oh, he's like a poor man's this is like what Iguodala was like. Everyone's like, he's like a poor man's LeBron James. I'm like, I don't really know if that makes me really like them that much.
Yeah.
Do you know who Alperen Şengün is? He's Domantas Sabonis if
I knew
Sabonis
you were
was
gonna
good.
say that.
He's Sabonis
Yeah,
if
that-
Sabonis was good.
That is like, yeah, he is more it's like, I don't know,
Yeah.
because Sabonis, I mean, you watch more Kings than me, I'm sure, but like
Unfortunately for his
Sabonis is
Wish I
like,
didn't.
like the
Right.
way centers and power forwards are used, where they're kind of used as that hub. Like, I mean, even like Zubac, he's used as like that, that weird like center hub, like where let's give them the ball, like give them the ball and then kind of like let them like give it to a guard and have them go to work or whatever. It's like, I mean, you can't really get much better than like, it's Jokic, Sabonis, and then Şengün are all kind of doing that the best out of all players at that position. But I don't know. I guess because like I just got to see a little bit more of it with Şengün. I probably should have had him on the list, but I just need to see a little bit more of it before I'm like, yeah, you're a top 30 player.
I think most people would hear me say, I wish I didn't watch more Kings than Devin and think that means that I wish I didn't watch the Kings. But what I actually mean is I wish that Devin did have to watch the Kings and suffer. I could have somebody to suffer through it with. No, I'm just kidding, Devin. I would never wish that on anybody. It's horrible basketball. Alperen Şengün, 7 games against Golden State in the playoffs this year, 21, 12, and 5.
Okay, yeah.
He was crushed. He was like the only good Rocket.
Yeah. I mean, he's
Yeah.
the best player on the number 2 seed in the West. Like, it's hard for me to leave that guy off the list entirely.
Yeah, he's another guy that I could see being much higher
Yeah.
next season when we get Clint and Devin to vote for him.
I think as well it's go ahead, Clay. I was just gonna say like the Rockets, it was a one season thing. Like they came out of nowhere. Like, can they do that again? Can they be that good of a team again? If so, and he's still doing what he's doing,
Yeah.
absolutely. I would consider
Well,
him there. But
and as much issues as I have with this player, I'm wondering how much having Kevin Durant might actually help him because
yeah.
he's essentially slotting in place of Jalen Green. And Jalen Green just is so volatile. Like don't know what you're getting from him on any given night. So that like the steadiness of Kevin Durant's production might actually help out a little bit.
Yeah, I think like my thing is, you're like, and this is just like kind of a weird way to put it, but it's like I don't think anybody Rockets played really well this year. Like I can't take that away from them. But like when you look at the Rockets roster and stuff, you're not like I'm not spooked of any of these guys that are on this roster at the moment outside of like Kevin Durant, which is like you really got to pay attention to him. So it's like I don't know if it's like a false sense of security. You're not worried about it because you're looking ahead to, the next big marquee thing that you got going on while they're quietly winning games and stuff. Like he's not a sexy player to watch. And like my argument here, although he is a center, is like, okay, would I rather have him or LaMelo Ball? I'd rather take LaMelo Ball, but they're in similar situations as far as like, okay, LaMelo's team is not as good as that, but it's like, okay, he's the hot shot on that on his team, whereas this guy, yeah, he's the hot shot on the Rockets, and it's like, well, we'll see how he does in the playoffs when it actually matters.
Yeah, if I was going to say one negative thing about Şengün, I would say the entire reason the Rockets had to trade for Kevin Durant in the first place is because in crunch time, they do not have a guy who can go and get them a bucket.
Yeah.
And so if you're like Şengün, it's like, yeah, he's the best player on the team, but he can't be our like, hey, go get us a bucket guy in the last, 4 minutes of the game when it's close.
No, like he's
22 as well. Like he hasn't, like he needs to develop a little bit too. Like I'll give him that. Like I'm not going to come for him that hard.
I think the reality too is that like when there's such a gap in talent between like him, who is definitely more of an interior player,
Yep,
and all the other guys on the roster that are perimeter players, there's no space to operate in. So like, yeah, like the defense is not gonna like make it easy on them. They're like, all right, well, they're gonna go to Şengün. It's just one of the inherent disadvantages of being a post player and being the best player on your team.
The next guy that we had a big discrepancy on, we have Kawhi Leonard, number 25 overall. This was the Adam special. I had Kawhi 17th in my rankings. Matt had him 30th. Clint didn't vote for him at all. Devin had him 27th.
which is really surprising because I do like Kawhi when he plays a lot.
Yeah. I don't want to spoil. I'm not going to spoil next week. I'm just going to say for my voting, I have a glut of guys who are like the older injured stars who, when they play, are still awesome. So it's like Kawhi, AD, Kevin Durant, Jimmy Butler. I have them all together in my voting, but I have Kawhi as the best guy in that group. And I know he only played 37 regular season games last year, and you definitely cannot rely on him, but God damned was he good in the playoffs against the Nuggets.
Yeah.
Game 2 against
As
the
is
Nuggets.
tradition.
This is the thing. This is the Kawhi thing, is like, if he can be healthy, not even for the season, just for the playoffs, he's still so damn good. Game 2 against the Nuggets, the Clippers win 105-102. Kawhi's stat line, 39 points on 15 of 19 shooting.
Same.
Like, nobody else can do that. Still, yeah. I know Shea's amazing. I know Jokic and Giannis are amazing. Nobody's putting up that stat line except for like a good Kawhi Leonard.
It's just because his hands are so big. Like nobody else can control the ball like he can.
Truckosaurus.
I think a huge problem for me now at this point is like, obviously you can't necessarily, you can, if he's there for the playoffs, awesome. You can rely on him for the playoffs.
Yeah.
I am sick and tired. To me, it's more of a Clippers thing now for me at this point. I am sick and tired of going into every season and like all these talking heads are like, wow, I mean, the Clippers, though, you got to watch out for how good they are. And I'm like, they're never going to do anything. Like they will never end up making it to the NBA finals. I guarantee you, not with this team. Like they're not going to. And it's like everything looks great on paper. You have Zubac doing what he does. You have Kawhi, you have all these other amazing complementary pieces. But I'm just like, whether it's Kawhi being hurt or it's just the Clippers curse, like I'm sick and tired of going into the season, at the All-Star break, at the end of the season, like having these conversations like, whoa, I mean, the Clippers, they could be like a sneaky like finals team. And I'm like, I will only ever believe that when it actually happens. Like I'm done
Even
having
then,
any
I'm not
stock in that
entirely
team.
convinced.
Yeah,
No,
I've
they
never really seen it. Yeah,
they
just
can't be because they have James Harden. And
yeah.
Yeah,
it's so funny. Like one thing we repeatedly say on this podcast is that the memes are the memes for a reason.
yeah,
And we mostly say that about football and the LA Chargers. But the James Harden meme is a meme for a reason. And all year
yeah.
this year, people were like, wow, he's such a good fit for them. Kawhi's not playing and he's really buoying this team and blah, blah, blah. And the entire year on this podcast, Matt and I were like, just wait till it matters, wait till it matters, wait till it
Yep.
matters. And they get into game 7 against the Nuggets in the first round, and James Harden will not even look at the rim. What was he like,
Yeah.
2 for 6 in game 7? And he was
Yeah.
2 for 8, and he's just
It
like,
was pretty
nah.
pathetic. Yeah.
Should have
Get
been
scared.
fucking benched, is what he should have been.
He didn't even fucking try, is the problem.
Yeah.
It's like he was so afraid to have a bad game, he didn't try. But
It was like, oh, I had enough open holes last night.
yeah. To finish the thought on Kawhi, though, that 7-game series against the Clippers, 25 points per game on 54% shooting and 40% shooting from 3. Taking 17 shots a game and shooting 54%. He still got it. And that's why
Those
I
aren't
voted for him.
layups either.
Yeah.
It's mid-range and stuff.
Yeah.
Like
No, and like that was like exclusively why I put him at 30 because he basically didn't play all year long. But I was like, man, like playoff Kawhi is still there.
Yeah. And I understand all the arguments against him too. Like
Yeah.
I'm not going to fight too hard for him, but we talked about Ja. Matt had Ja a lot higher than everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
One guy, I saved the best for last. The last guy that we need to talk about is
Here we go.
number 22 on our list, Evan Mobley. Matt had Evan Mobley 17th overall. Devin had him 15th overall. But I voted for him 29th, and Clint did not vote for him at all. So this is like Mario Party where you get split up into sides. I guess Matt and Devin, you guys make the case for Evan Mobley.
I mean, it's obviously it starts and ends with his defensive versatility.
Yeah.
I think it just that has to be what it is. Obviously,
Yeah.
won the defensive player of the year. Like his offense is starting to come along more. I know it
Mhm.
doesn't really like in the playoffs, it's not even just him, but the Cavs are just kind of like they repeatedly disappoint and stuff. But
yeah,
but in terms of being like, like I look at that draft and I remember it was kind of it's like, oh, like is it Cade or Evan Mobley? Like who's the guy from that draft? And it's like in my heart, it's obviously Cade. He made
Yeah.
an all NBA team this year. I'm also a homer, so it's like there you go.
Yeah.
But Evan Mobley is a great player, and it's
Mhm.
while his offense lags a little bit behind, he's starting to make his threes more, and his defense is
Yeah.
just it's very good, and he can be everywhere
Yeah.
all at once on the court defensively.
The defense is really the biggest piece of that for me. And like yes, like you said, Devin, like the offense has been a little bit behind, but like he is even on offense, like a multifaceted player. He's not just I need to score. He does have like strong passing abilities. I think those will continue to grow as he gets more and more time in the league. And I think too, like I think he's not like I don't think he should necessarily be entirely separated from this, but I think he's also in some way a victim of it. But like there's the like weird energy of the Cavs with like how they play in the playoffs, and like I think that there needs to be like definitely some changes in coaching and roster around him. But I don't know that that is inherent to him. Does he need to rise above it? Yes. But like I again, like Cade is the poster child for the situation around you can definitely change how others perceive you. And I think that if they fix that, we're gonna definitely view Evan Mobley in a much more positive light.
Also made second team All NBA.
Yeah.
And actually looking at his playoff numbers now, none of the counting stats are like crazy, but he was very efficient. I mean, he shot 59% from the
Yeah.
field and 45% from three on 4 attempts per game, which is like the one part of his game that everyone's like, when is he going to start being able to do this? And then, he put
Yeah.
up 17 points a game. It wasn't like anything crazy, but I don't really look at him as a guy who's like, I'm like, yeah, Evan Mobley, for him to be like an amazing player, needs to drop 25 points a game. Like, it's not really like, I don't really look at him as that guy where I'm like, yeah, you need to be 2004 Kevin Garnett.
No, I'm more excited about his potential as a distributor than I am as a scorer.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Clint, they got a bunch of good points over there. Why no Evan Mobley for you?
I think that like when I look at the Cavs and I look at like the makeup of the team, I'm way more excited about like Donovan Mitchell. And I mean, I think Jarrett Allen's going to be really, really good, or he's going to develop into a much better player than he is. But I'm a little more excited about that than I think that if you're tossing it to somebody we got, what was it, like 18-9 or something like that is what his stats were. I like if you're the second option on the team, I want to see you have a little bit higher scoring. And I understand his defense is good, but the scoring is also like where I feel like they need a little help in that regard. And just not being able to get over the 20 and 10. Like, I would much rather have the guy who can do that than Evan Mobley with the defensive side of stuff.
Yeah, I'm deeply offended that Evan Mobley ended up being higher on the composite list than Paolo Banchero, because we just talked about this with like Chet Holmgren versus Paolo. If Evan Mobley is the number one option on your team, I don't know that we view him the same way as we view him as being on this Cavs team that was pretty good last season. But speaking of Evan Mobley specifically, I did vote for him. I had him low though, because yes, he's a phenomenal defensive player. He won Defensive Player of the Year because Victor Wembanyama was hurt, but still won it. But then when it mattered, that Cavs defense got absolutely eviscerated in the playoffs. And he had multiple games against the Indiana Pacers where he was posted a -20 and a -27. So I give him a little bit of a benefit of the doubt in the playoffs this year because he was hurt. He missed a couple games in that series. Mm-hmm. But man, like, is there a chance that he's just the James Harden of defense and he's just going to have these absolutely phenomenal regular seasons defensively? And then when the Cavs get to the playoffs, it's just constantly disappointing because they're just not a good playoff team offensively or defensively.
That feels far-fetched for me.
Yeah. It's a lot.
It was very, very far-fetched.
I'm just saying. It's a disappointing
especially because
team.
Like defense is very much like a mentality thing. Like I feel like you are much less likely to be a dog on defense for 82 games and then in the playoffs feel like, oh, I don't know.
But
right?
I think the thing that isn't being considered is nobody else is being like, I'm going to take it to the dog who's playing defense for 82 games until they get to the playoffs when the light switch flips and it goes from LeBron walking down the court to him coast to coasting two-handed dunks every other possession. Like, that's a gross embellishment, but it's like, yeah, like the playoff switch is definitely a thing. And we see it in Jimmy every time that he gets there, he flips the switch. And it's like, why don't you fucking play like this during the regular season?
Right.
Can't explain it. Like, but it's the jump between normal and hard. Like you switch the flip to hard and you're like, what the hell? Why am I getting cooked so hard? Like,
right.
And this never happened.
And I think part of my counterpoint too is like you'd mentioned like you're a bit more excited about Donovan Mitchell. I don't know. Donovan Mitchell is starting to feel like the common denominator on a few different teams of like failed playoff teams. And
Yeah, that's fair.
so like my big thing with him is like you should be the leader on this playoff team. You should be the one setting the tone. So if we're gonna come at someone for this Cavs defense falling apart in the playoffs, it should be Donovan Mitchell, someone who came into the league known for his defense, which has steadily kind of started to evaporate.
Yeah. I would put more of the Cavs blame overall on Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah.
But if we're talking about defense, Donovan Mitchell is not the first guy that I'm looking at and being like, why isn't this defense better?
No, but
100% globally.
we also know that defense in the NBA is like it's a very much a team thing. So once someone starts fucking something up, then it's a domino effect because other guys have to do things outside their responsibilities to cover up for that. And NBA offenses in the playoffs are just gonna absolutely tear that up.
Yeah, that's
Well-
just kind of the thing with the Cavs, though, is it's like, they were so good last season. Would they win 64 games or something like that?
Mhm.
And then you get into the playoffs and it's like the same thing every year. It's like, hey, when I'm going to play you between 4 and 7 times in a row,
Yeah.
and I have all this time to prepare for you and make adjustments to you and stuff. And now every time I get into that situation against you, your team falls apart and your defense, that was your calling card almost
Yeah.
all season. Like it really fell apart the last
Yeah.
quarter of the season into the playoffs.
Yeah.
Indy cooked them.
So we talked about this throughout the season. About like the halfway mark of the year, we started seeing warning signs. And then it really started to fall apart in the last quarter of the year. Like, if we're gonna put the bulk of the blame on anyone, it's Kenny Atkinson. Which I for one am glad that Biggerstaff died for this. But I don't think that Atkinson really deserves to shy away from any of the smoke here.
Yeah, that's fair. But for now, that is it for us. As always, Fouled Out can be found on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, Overcast, anywhere you get your podcast. You can hit us up on Gmail, fouledoutsports@gmail.com. You can find our videos on TikTok, Fouled Out Sports Podcast. It is a long name, but you can't miss it. This podcast comes out on July 10th, which is my birthday. So happy birthday to me. The pod will drop next week, Thursday. We're going to go through players 20 through 11 with our expert panel of judges here. A list that includes Kevin Durant, LeBron James, and Matt's favorite player, Cade Cunningham, in some order. And then 2 weeks from now, we'll be breaking down the top 10 players on our 2025 list. And then after that, the last week of July, Matt and I are going to start with our divisional previews for the NFL. So the last week of July and then all of August is NFL preview time leading up to the beginning of the NFL season. So you're not going to want to miss any of that. But guys, thanks for doing this again this year. Thanks for voting and jumping on the pod with us to talk about this. Looking forward to getting into the list a little bit deeper next week as well.
Yeah.
I would like to say one thing. It's really sad that the, group of guys that we talked about today have less cachet and less relevance than Caitlin Clark does. I want everybody to just like kind of appreciate that like, and even going up into, towards top 10, like she's really doing awesome things in the basketball world. I'm really impressed with her. And, I haven't been able to be on, so I don't know if the guys are singing her praises, but I just want to say that like it is incredible that there's somebody on the map who's doing great things for women's basketball as well.
No, it's mostly been a lot of talk about how the NBA does a terrible job of marketing their young stars and continue to hold on to the old guard.
Let me ask you this, Clint. Let me ask you this, Clint.
That's absolutely true.
How many NBA players total have more cachet than Caitlin Clark right now?
It's a short list.
Holy cats. Yeah, I think if I'm gonna go with just like the social kind of cachet, I think it goes like LeBron James, Stephen Curry, Jokic, even though he's quiet, like he has it, he just doesn't say much, and then like Giannis and Luka, and then probably Caitlin Clark. Like that in the basketball world, that's how I would see that hierarchy going of like, these are the players that everybody's kind of talking about.
I was thinking like popularity wise or like Q
Yeah.
rate, like Q rating, awareness rating. It's like
That's kind of what I was going off of too. So
I was thinking like LeBron, Curry, KD, and that's it.
Yeah.
Well, I think KD's name is just tainted now with every failed experiment he's had beyond Golden State. So I don't think like when people are talking about him, it's like in the positive realm where like,
that
Q,
knows
despite how
burner
you
accounts.
yeah, like
Q
despite how you
rating-
feel about the guys I was talking about, like
Yeah.
you're gonna find more people than not that have favorable opinions of them. Everybody's bitching about Kevin Durant right now.
But
I'd be the first person to tell you he's great.
Q rating doesn't have to be positive though. It's like awareness.
Oh Jesus!
So people know. I mean, it's just, hey man, all publicity is good publicity. But I think that's the craziest thing is like to Matt's point, and I know we're going after the sign off here, but Shai Gilgeous-Alexander just had what did we end up with, Matt? The 9th most points all time, regular season and postseason combined of any season in NBA history, the 9th most points ever. And I guarantee you way more people know who Caitlin Clark is than Shai. And not because she doesn't deserve it, because she's absolutely amazing and does deserve it.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think it goes to show Matt's point that he's made on the podcast multiple times now is the NBA just does such a shitty job of marketing their new stars. Like, why is Shai not more popular?
Because he plays in a small market.
Yeah, and he doesn't talk shit like Ant.
Yeah, but like, I don't think that matters anymore because of social media.
I just think he's boring, right?
And for me,
he's like the safe choice.
For me, he's not like I definitely get you, but because it's like small market teams though have had stars that were marketed better, like Tim Duncan, right? Like it's like, I mean, the Spurs, that's a bit bigger.
Like LeBron
James,
LeBron James in Cleveland,
right? Exactly. Like there's there's plenty of.
It's not like Milwaukee is a huge market. Like
exactly. And people know who Giannis is. At least basketball fans know who Giannis is. So I don't know.
But I would still say people care more about Caitlin Clark than they do about Giannis.
Absolutely. Yeah. 100%.
Shai just is a quiet dude. He goes about his business. He's real polite. Mm-hmm. Like I'd be like, hey, like my nephew or nieces, I'd be like, this is a guy you would want to behave like. If you're gonna like make it big, this is a role model. Like he's doing stuff for his community. He's not rocking the boat. He doesn't say the wrong things. Like
maybe just don't foul bait as much as him, and then you'd be a perfect citizen. But like, I'm just
I don't disagree with Clint, but I will tell you guys, I have my 1-year-old daughter watching Caitlin Clark highlights on repeat right now. I'm like, this is gonna be you. Give me 17 more years, but
we can get her in the gym. Like, I want to let you guys know I did Reese's summer basketball camp and stuff with the varsity guys too, and that was a lot of fun. So we finally have varsity coaching experience on the pod. Like
we could actually talk some real hoops, but
get her in the lab.
Exactly. We'll do
all
it.
right. Thank you guys for being here again. We will see you all next week.
Bye guys.
Bye guys.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye.